Well, today, World Water Day is being observed internationally throughout the UN system. To tell us all about it and how it is impacting us here in Trinidad and Tobago, what is our current water situation, we have the Minister himself, Senator the Honorable Robert LaHunt. Welcome.
Good morning. Welcome. Thank you. Good morning, viewers.
What is the theme of this year's World Water Day, first of all, and how are we promoting it?
Well, World Water Day, first to begin, is declared by the UN since, and has been celebrated around the world since, I think it's 1993. So it's actually a little while now that they have been celebrating water. This year, the theme is really nature for water. And it really is looking at nature-based solutions with regard to dealing with some of the world's water problems or the potential world problems.
And what are some of those problems globally and even as it relates to us here at home?
Well, you know, I mean, surprisingly, when you look at the world statistics, it is probably projected that about two-thirds of the world, of the citizens in the world, will be facing water shortages by the year 2025. I mean, that's a staggering number when you recognize that water is something that we need for life and for sustainability, and without water there are a number of problems. So it is a problem globally. Happily in Trinidad, we are not in a water deficit position as a country. But it is important to us because we need to take, not because we have water, we need to look at how we utilize water. We need to look at our natural resources. We need to look at our natural courses and make sure that we are protecting them, we are dealing with them in a proper manner. The things that come to mind readily for Trinidad is how we deal with how do we pollute these water courses, how do we mine these water courses, and therefore how do we affect their future supply. I mean, and it's even more relevant when you consider that in Trinidad about 20 to 25% of our water that we get come from these natural resources, like, you know, the rivers and streams and so forth. So we need to protect them so that they will be sustainable, not only for us now, for especially in the future. And again, that becomes even more important when you hear about global warming. You've all have heard about it, and it's something that has an impact on us because of the changing in climate. That is also impacting on how much days of dry season we are having versus wet season. And we really cannot predict what is happening. And all we do know it will have an impact on our water courses, and we therefore need to manage them for the future. So we're going to look at things like mining, illegal mining, which is happening, which is affecting some of our waters, and pollution. Pollution, to me, is one of the great impacts that it has. You know, I mean, when you look at our water courses, you see what happens with us during the rainy season. And a lot of that is how we deal with our garbage, how we deal with pollution, how we deal with our PET bottlers. And you see a lot of them in the water courses. So they're all tied in with the theme this year, which is, as you said, looking at the natural causes or the natural ways in which we could deal with our water solution.
As a people generally, would you say that we preserve water and we conserve water? Are we mindful at all?
Well, the simple answer to that is no. I know in Trinidad, a lot of people, we do have challenges as it regards to a supply of water on a 24/7 basis, and we are looking at that, as I said, in spite of the fact that in Trinidad, we produce about 240 million gallons of water a day. Not everyone in the country gets 24/7 water. But that being said, when you look at what is done internationally, and you look at the international benchmarks, in Europe, people use about 100 liters a gallon, 100 liters of water a day. In Trinidad, in the Caribbean, the average is about probably 200, 250. In Trinidad, our figures are more up at like about 500 liters a day. So our usage of water, our conservation techniques that we recognize and we use, and we all do it. I mean, I'm not saying things that I don't do or you don't do. When we open the taps, when we go to bathe, when we wash the wares, how we wash our clothes. I've always used the example of my cousin who actually left United States with her dirty clothes, because in that house you have to be careful about how you use water. She brought it back here to Trinidad to wash, simply because, well, you know, we are not that attuned to it here, and the price of water here, people are able to use it a lot.
We're very fortunate.
Very fortunate people,
Yeah.
very fortunate.
Now, if citizens notice a water leak, how can they go about reporting it?
Well, you know, when I mentioned earlier that we produce a lot of water, 240 million gallons a day, but we still have a lot of problems. The reality is a lot of our water, and I've spoken about that before, about 50% of our water is lost, either through leaks or through illegal connections. The latter we are dealing with, and we are going to be coming down hard on people who are making these illegal connections. But a big part of the water is lost as a result of leaks. A lot of these leaks are the surface leaks that customers see on the roadways and so forth, and then a lot of them are also transmission lines, which we are using water there, and we need to find those big leaks and deal with them. What we did recently, actually, is that WASA launched an app. A very interesting app is one that whereby if you see a leak, you just simply take a picture, and that app records the coordinates where the actual leak is, and you forward it. We have had a number of people have downloaded the app. Sadly, I think the amount of people who are actually utilizing the app, the amount of leaks that I would have expected to get from it has not materialized as much, but we have got a number of people, over 2,500 people have downloaded the app. The app could also be used for things like ordering water, making requests for bath service, or reporting things like that. But the major reason why I came up with the idea with the app was just to get people involved in the process of helping us to identify leaks. That being said, I must say, because of the hype that I have brought around it, we have gotten a number of people calling in, and there's a lot more focus by the communities, by Trinidadians. My flood is flooded almost every day with leaks throughout the country. And I think a number of WASA managements are also being flooded with leaks. And we are trying our best to see how we could arrest that situation.
There's also a WASA hotline, I understand, so we can just make a phone call as well to report leaks.
Yes, there's a WASA hotline. Admittedly, I have gotten some complaints about the WASA hotline. People feel that when they call, they don't always get a response as quickly as they should. And we are looking into that particular problem, but there's the WASA hotline. But the response that I said that I've gotten from the app program, and I'm really encouraging people to use that particular app and really get involved in helping us to solve the number of the leak problem that we have in the country.
Being part of the solution, of course. The ministry had launched a leak repair program, so I'm thinking this is all part of that program.
Yes, it is part of that program. And it has been doing pretty all right. You know, I mean, we started about 2 months ago with about 2,700 leaks in the country. Admittedly, we are now down. We were down at low as 2,200. We are now back to about 2,005 leaks. But that being said, we have repaired over 3,000 leaks in the period. So you get an idea that we started at 2007. We prepared over 3,000 because of what keeps coming on a daily basis, and we are now. So the net reduction, our goal is to try to get that figure down to around 800 by December. So we have a little way to go, but we are hopeful. We have gotten a lot of response, a good response from the union, and they're helping to put out crews and so forth, and I want to thank the WASA people for doing that. So we have been out there trying to address this problem a little bit more. We could deal with a little bit more assistance from the population in bringing in these requests. Using the WASA app will also go a long way in helping us to address that particular position.
You spoke earlier about the illegal connections. How exactly do you plan to go about addressing this?
Well, first to begin, we are going, it's really going to be about going to door. We are looking at our databases. We are checking our databases in particular ways and so forth. Of course, I don't want to reveal all of our plans, but we are going to be looking and surveying the particular areas. We have an idea where they are, and we are going to be looking at getting and prosecuting people who are taking water from the system illegally. And in some cases, what has also happened, we have people who have had who have once was a residence and turn it into a business, and they also need to change their usage, because there's a little bit of difference in the charging and the tariff that is being charged. So we need to address that. I mean, because we think out there are probably, my rough estimate, close to probably 1,000 illegal connections. And that is something that WASA needs to aggressively address.
Are there fines so far that you've spoken about, had discussions about, as it pertains to these illegal connections?
Yes, I think in the Act there are necessary fines that are associated with that.
And those would definitely...
Will definitely kick in.
Yes, okay, great. For communities that don't have water, didn't have water for some time, probably because of repairs being undertaken, can they get assistance to have their tanks filled, for instance, for a temporary period?
Yes, I mean, WASA do supply, if you are paying your bills and you are a good customer and you don't have water, we do provide truck-borne water supply to you. And again, this is temporary. It's a lot. We have gotten some complaints. Of course, we are dealing with the financial constraints at WASA, so our ability to respond as quickly has not been what I am particularly happy with. But I mean, more so we do provide truck-borne water supply to individuals who are affected. But I think the bigger challenge that I am looking at is really how do we fix that gap that is between supply and demand. And really, what are the projects that we have in place? We have a number of projects that we are looking at increasing the number of supply, all right, I mean, and also looking at fixing that water that is that we call non-revenue water, which is just being lost through big leaks. So we are looking at putting in some meterings at particular strategic points so that we'll be better able to identify these bulk leaks. We are also looking, as I said, at speeding up and putting out more crews out there in fixing what I consider the surface leaks. And also we are looking at a number of projects both in Trinidad and Tobago to drill some new wells so that we could increase our water supply.
In the event that you have outstanding payments on your water bill, would you still qualify to have WASA come and fill up your tanks in the event that you don't have water for a period of time?
Well, no. We do try to focus on people who are paying their bills and are up to date.
Yeah. Also, it has been reported that Trinidad and Tobago's water consumption per capita is significantly higher than many of our Caribbean counterparts. Why do you think this is the case?
Well, I think concurrent with that, the price that we also pay for water is on the converse. So in the case of Trinidad, in our usage, we are higher by about 3 to 4 times what is being used by our compatriots in the Caribbean. But when you look at our tariff, it is also well known that our tariff is also a lot lower, or about the same equivalent position compared to our compatriots. So I think that is one particular, the price that we pay, the tariffs that we pay for water in Trinidad is one of the lowest in the regions and actually one of the lowest in the world. That being said, that's a matter that is going to be dealt with or is being looked at by the RIC, so I'm not going to comment much further on that.
Sure.
But in addition to that, as I said, I think as we were talking about before, the way in which the psyche of our people, the bad habits that we have developed. Yeah, it's really bad habits that we have developed. We have really not inculcated a conservation mechanism, and which is something we are also looking at WASA in trying to promote this year. Especially as we're going into, I know around this dry season period, we get very hyper about it because, of course, we start to see the effects. But conservation also starts because it gets into your psyche, it's an habit, and you cannot just switch it on and switch it off. If during the rainy season we are wasting water because we have developed a particular lifestyle, it is difficult when you come to the dry season, everyone tells you just to change. You need to practice. These are things that we need to inculcate in our culture, inculcate in our habits all the time. So I think it's one of the things that WASA is also going to be working on, working with the school children and trying to inculcate a whole concept of conservation and how we utilize water. We are starting this year with a good dry season. We are from a good wet season because our dams are fairly well filled. But however, if we utilize the water conservatively, then we should see it through the dry season pretty okay. But it really would depend on us.
Okay. Are you happy with our progress thus far in terms of the amount of households that have now been able to receive pipe-borne water supply?
No, I think I will not be happy until I see that figure reaching way over 75% and getting up into the 80%.
Where are we now?
Well, you know, a lot of days, that's part of the problem with WASA. The statistics about WASA, it varies from region to region and during the dry season and during the drought season. I think in some areas of Trinidad and Tobago, during the wet season, we could get up to about 75. But during the dry season, in some areas of Trinidad and Tobago, we could get as low as probably 5 to 10%, which is fairly low, of people who are getting water consistently 24/7. So we are working in those particular areas, and that's part of the challenge in WASA, also the connectivity and the ability to move water from region to region. That again requires a certain degree of capital expenditure in WASA that we are also managing and we are not able to do at this particular point in time. So WASA has some challenges, and I think we have to really invest a little bit more money into that institution. Sadly, we are doing that at a time when we are not really blessed with a lot of money, and it's things that is capital expenditure that should have been done, in my mind, a few years ago. Now we are faced with it, and we need to look at it and manage it and try to see how much we could do and how much, as we keep saying, how we could do more with less.
How are we observing World Water Day? Are there any events or anything in place?
Hey, well, I am here.
I heard that WASA will be having a film night.
Yes, WASA will also be having a film night. I mean, and it's really going to be looking at some of the feature films, some of the local feature films that deals with the impact of global warming on the region. I think that's a particularly interesting one. It's going to be up at WASA's sports ground. It starts from about 6 with a little cocktail reception, and then it goes on. As I said, I've seen that particular film, and it's very interesting, and I wish we could get a lot of more people looking at it. I think the WRA, which is the Water Resource Agency, who are the ones that are really responsible, the agency that is responsible in managing water in the country, and the usage and how much you could extract and so forth. They're having a media managers workshop where again they're trying to promote and let people understand the impact of global warming and how we could, some of the things that we're talking about here, how we could manage our natural water courses a little bit better, pollution, and how we can look at things like illegal mining and all of the things that are affecting us and which we need to look at in protecting those water courses going forward.
Mr. Lahan, to your closing comments, what would you like to say on this occasion to the national public?
You know, as usual, Trinidad is blessed as a country when you recognize what is happening throughout the world, or what is going to be happening with 2/3 of the world population facing scarce water resources. We are blessed that we are not in a deficit position as a country. However, you know, with whom a lot is given, a lot is expected. And therefore, we need to ensure development is about how you manage. True development is about how you manage your natural resources, not for today, but how we have it sustainable, in a sustainable manner for down the road, for all our kids and our children. We are dealing with a world where there are lots of changes. Global warming is an impact on us, and we do have water now. We need to make sure that we deal with it in a responsible manner, so that our future generations will also be able to have water. I'm also pledging that we're really working at the ministry and WASA. We understand the pain that the citizens are feeling. In some cases, we have been not able to meet their expectations as it regards to providing 24/7 water. Talking about the reasons why that has happened in the past, that's in the past. But I am working, and the ministry is working diligently, and the people at WASA, in really trying to correct that problem, because I would really like to see that the whole of Trinidad, or the majority of the Trinidadians, are able to get a better water supply.
Thank you so much, Minister. It's always a pleasure having you on board. And of course, we've been chatting with Senator the Honorable Robert Lahunt, Minister of Public Utilities, urging us to conserve water and take better precautions in managing our water courses.